Well, it's CRF time once again. We got a box of goodies for Controls Part 2. That's right, Controls Part 2. Just making a few small tweaks here, so this is not an overhaul by any means. This is actually a pretty nice setup the way I have it, and I really like it, but there's a couple of small little things I want to try to make it just that much better. Get it from 95% to 100%. So, got a few things over here that I'm going to add. One of the things I noticed in my first off-road impressions with this bike, especially in that setting with standing up on the bike, is that I wish the bars were just a little bit taller. And so with that, I got some bar risers from Tusk. These are small ones. These are only 15 millimeters, so it's not going to do a lot, but just a little bit. And I think that's all that I need, really. And so we got all the hardware here. In fact, they even gave me more hardware that came with additional bolts and some spacers. Not exactly sure where all this lines up, but once we open up all this stuff, we'll get into it. And then the other thing I wanted to tackle was the throttle. A lot of people have mentioned that the throttle response is very jerky with this bike, and one of the things that people do besides the Vortex ECU is a G2 Ergonomics throttle-tamer. And I thought, yeah, I might want to get that, but I think there might be a cheaper option here, a free option actually. Although in this case, I got a second throttle tube, just a OEM replacement for $6 because I don't want to mess things up in case things go wrong. So in this case, it's a $6 fix, but I want to try to replicate the throttle-tamer with a little bit of modification there. And then finally, just some grips, just in case. I don't think I would need to use these, but in case I accidentally rip up the grips or I need to use this throttle, whatever, I have some grips that I can use. So I think I'm going to start with the bar risers first. That's going to be the easiest thing. I don't have to modify anything at all, and even though there's a lot of stuff going on here, all I have to really worry about are 4 bolts, pull the thing off, move it back, place them in the right order, and then bolt everything up. Should be pretty easy. Well, that was easy, but actually took a little bit longer than I thought. Had to fiddle with it a little bit, as you probably saw, just because there's a lot of spacers that they gave here. But after looking at it, taking it off, putting it back on, figuring it out, I figured out that I actually don't need any spacers at all with this. It's perfectly fine. The threads go all the way down to the bottom of these, so there's no chance of it bottoming out before it's tightened, which is fine. And then there are some gaps in here, which I thought maybe I could put a spacer in, but the spacer was a little bit longer, so then if I did put the spacers in, even though this would be tightened down all the way, this would not be secure. So no spacers whatsoever. We're good now. Now that this is done, let's move to the throttle. And so we're going to pull off this. And I do think I need to modify this because it does have an end cap, so we need to drill that out. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do. So as I said, I was going to drill this thing out so I can use it with the handguards that I have, and was staring at this throttle tube thinking, there's something off about this. And so I actually pulled out the old one that I was going to put on originally, the aluminum one, but it has a bearing at the end here, and look at this. It's shorter. Not a lot, but enough that the grip would actually be up and over this. And then even just kind of comparing it to the stock OEM one that's on there right now, this is significantly shorter. Why? And I even looked back at the website for Rocky Mountain where I got this to see, and it does say that it's the correct part. The part number that's on the bag is the same part number that I ordered, and this is supposed to be like a universal one for most CRFs. A little odd there. But I'm going to have to adapt and overcome, I suppose. I guess I could drill this out still. Maybe I will, just to kind of see how it lines up. Maybe it's not as bad as I think. But maybe we'll revisit this one and see if I can actually pull out this bearing. I don't know. We'll play around with this one because even if this one breaks, who cares? I'm not going to use it because I haven't been using it. So let's I don't know, do some exploratory surgery here, see if we can't push this all out, drill it all out, whatever we have to do, make this the throttle tube that I want. Okay, let's see here. Alright, now that we got that all out of the way, these are all cleaned up. See again? Much shorter than the aluminum one, but we'll gloss past that right now. So we have this mostly apart, but I want to explain what I want to do for this quote free 99 mod, or in this case a $6 mod. So what the throttle-tamer does is it actually changes this piece up here, the cam, more or less, and this is where the wires will rub against when you twist the throttle. And there's different cam profiles that they'll use depending on how you want the throttle response to be. In this case, we want to tame it, so we want to actually shave off a little bit. And I've seen pictures of the G2 throttle-tamer, and I'll probably put one up right there, but as you can see, it's very flat on one side, and so that way it kind of evens out or lessens the initial throttle response, that kind of 8th throttle, quarter throttle turn. So imagine that this is all together, and so when you twist the throttle right here, this initial point right here, this area, is where it rubs against. And so my thought being, why don't we flatten that out? So what I'm going to do is take a Dremel tool, and I'm going to cut a line from the base of this where the cable actually connects and just go straight across to flatten out this initial bit here. So that's the thinking right now. So I will actually do that probably with the plastic one as my test, because I've never done this before, and show you what I mean. Whoops, that was dumb. Fuck. Oh my god, that was bad. Ah, freaking A, man. Alright, well the first attempt was a little rough and kind of got away from me right there, even with the aluminum one too, but that one is much finely tuned. This is short anyway, so done with that. And we have the aluminum one up on the actual handlebar right here, and you can see right there is our flat bit. So, and I wish I could demonstrate this, but again, one hand. So now when you twist the throttle down, it's going to pull this wire and it's going to pull it through that little groove that I cut right there. So it should flatten that out rather than going around the whole cam here. So it should lessen that initial throttle response. And then when it gets to, you know, more like quarter turn, full turn right here, then it's going to be on that full rounded profile and then should build up more or less. So that's the theory anyway. But before I completely wrap this up, I want to do an A/B test with the original. So let's get this all together more or less and we'll hit the parking lot. All right, we're at our parking lot test facility and we got the new modified one. Let's give it a shot. I think a few, maybe like start stops, we'll kind of see just how jerky it is or isn't. And then I have the old throttle tube and an 8mm in here so I can do a quick swap, nice and easy. And then we'll do the same thing with the OEM and see if this has any impact. So let's get right into it. I'm trying to think how to test this. Maybe like maybe just trying to stay at 10 miles an hour. That actually does feel pretty good. You could still see, maybe, that it's still a little jerky. I think that impact, that pull, is actually showing some stuff there. Because it's not pulling it as abruptly, as much impact that the normal cam would. At least it feels that way. Anyway. Now let's do some quick swaps and see how the OEM felt compared to this. See if it's any jerkier or the same.
12 seconds later.
Alright, back to stock. Let's see how it feels. Alright, we'll just start from a stop here. Just kind of putt around 10 miles an hour. Oh wow! That did do something, holy cow. I'm not exaggerating, by the way, but I'm pretty sure you can see by the brake lever here just how abrupt it is. That's crazy. Let's see if I can maintain 10 miles an hour. Wow. That did such a difference. Look at that. I'm hoping the camera picks that up, just how much movement there is on the bike with the OEM stuff. That's awesome. It certainly feels a lot better. Previously, the aluminum one, not this one. Okay, now I'm gonna swap it back so I can go from A to B to A and just make sure that that's not in my head. So another swap. All right, right back where we started. Let's try a few more, see what a change has brought. Oh yeah, that definitely mellowed it out. Oh wow, that's actually really smooth there, that roll on. That's incredible. It actually does seem like the jerkiness of the throttle was kind of moved over, basically from initial throttle response to more like an eighth to a quarter turn. That's where the jump comes, more or less, because it doesn't feel as smooth when you're accelerating. See, it goes wah, wah, but that's much more manageable than, you know, 5 miles an hour, no throttle at all to some throttle. That right there, oh, that is just beautiful. So I think I'm gonna ride this around, just kind of get up to more normal speeds, something beyond 25 miles an hour, and just get some overall feels for it and check in later. Well, it's all back together, and as you could probably tell, I'm back to stock, kind of. I'm not back to stock. I modified the stock one because I liked the profile so much, but that aluminum tube was just garbage without that bearing. It rattled like nothing else. And it gave me the opportunity, now that I had some practice, to actually modify that design just even a little bit further with this one, rather than it just being a flat cut all the way across and then meeting up with the original cam. I actually tapered it a little bit to kind of lessen the impact when it gets to the full cam. So now this thing feels so good, and it just rolls on nice and smooth. It has a really nice gradual build. I mean, so much so that I can get on the throttle with one hand and not feel like I'm gonna fall off. So I guess third time's the charm with this, and boy, is it amazing. Oh, it's just so smooth. So I guess this was really free $99, although I guess I spent $6 or $16, I guess, with the aluminum throttle tube in practice. But for a free option, if you have a Dremel and you know what you're doing, this is an amazing, amazing modification that anyone can do to their original throttle tube. Holy cow. I'm wondering if this is actually how a bike with a G2 or even like with a Vortex feels. But I think I've gotten that pretty close. And for a fraction of the cost. Hardly any of the cost, really. What a transformation. Now I'm curious to see how this handles on an off-road setting, because that would put it to the ultimate test right there. But we'll have to leave that for another day. For now, I am so happy with this. Oh yeah, and the risers, they feel pretty good too. Bye.